These days a lot of people are learning to plough. First they must know how the plough works. The coulter makes the first vertical cut in the ground. The shear then digs in and cuts the soil horizontally, and the slice of earth is forced up the moldboard and turned over to the right. Nowadays ploughing is often done by members of the Women's Land Army. Miss Parker is an old hand at the game, now training other girls, and she's going to show how to mark out a field for ploughing. First she puts in her marking sticks. Sticks are placed 8 yards from the hedges at each corner of the field. A single furrow is then ploughed round the field from stick to stick. The strip of land which is left at each end of the field for the tractor to turn on is called the headland. For convenience, a sideland of the same width is left at each side, so that in the finishing process the plough can work right round the field without idle travel and without passing over land that has already been ploughed. Notice that for ploughing these marking furrows, the plough is thrown out of level so that only the rear body is being used. A single furrow has now been ploughed right round the field. The next step is to divide the field into sections called lands. To do this, Miss Parker places sticks on the headland furrow, the first one 16 yards from the sideland and the others 22 yards apart. Placing her sticks methodically in advance, she ploughs marking furrows between them, thus avoiding idle journeys. Notice that the first marking furrow is 3/4 of a full land's width from the sideland. When the field is irregular in shape and the headland crooked, all the distances must be stepped out square with the sideland and not along the crooked headland. Now all the marking furrows are finished, she turns to plough out another furrow alongside each of them. This furrow is turned away from the marking furrow. This is known as splitting the ridges. Here is Miss Parker getting ready for the next stage, setting up the ridges. The plough is now levelled so that it cuts 3 furrows. She takes the skim coulter off the first body to stop the plough getting choked while the ridges are being set up. With all bodies cutting, she starts off to lay 3 furrows against the split. Travelling up and down the splits in this manner. Notice that the front moldboard is turning over 2 furrow slices at once, the marking furrow slice and another one on top of it, making a sandwich. You can see here exactly what's been happening. First, the marking furrow is ploughed, then the second furrow is turned away from it, the ridge is split. Then setting up the ridges, 3 furrows turned over on one side, and 3 furrows turned on the other side. Notice particularly that all the ground is cut by the plough. Other methods of setting up ridges leave a strip of unploughed land under the ridge. All is ready now for continuous ploughing. The plough is set level and to whatever depth is wanted, and the skim coulter put back. so Miss Parker starts off on the main part of the job. On stubble one can work quite quickly, but for ploughing grassland you must go slowly to make a good job of it. To begin with, furrows are ploughed inside the first land, starting along the sideland and then along the first ridge, and this process is continued until about 5 yards have been completed on each side. The ridge is now wide enough for the tractor to turn round it easily. Furrows are now ploughed round the ridge until the first land is down to finishing width. By this time the ploughing has brought the second land down to 16 yards wide. This was the width of the first land when work started, and so the whole process can be repeated from the beginning right across the field. This is the basis of the continuous method of ploughing, and here it is in practice. She comes down the first ridge and turns left-handed to go up the sideland. The first ridge will soon be wide enough to allow her to turn right round it easily, and when this is so, she turns right-handed, ploughing round the first ridge. Working this way, she avoids idle journeys and awkward turning. Pretty good ploughing this. Straight furrows well laid over, the grass buried and sealed in so that it will rot down, and a good flat ridge. Finishing off is always a tricky job. To avoid confusion, the method was not explained in the simplified diagram of continuous ploughing. Here's the way to do it. The unploughed strip is nearly down to finishing width. Miss Parker adjusts the plough hitch lever as she comes along to leave a parallel strip of the correct width for the last vout, 2 furrows wide for a 3-furrow plough. The tractor wheels are on ploughed land now and lower than before, and so she sets the plough shallower so that the last furrows will not be too deep. Only by resetting the plough can a satisfactory shallow finish be made. Open or dead furrows which are too deep may cause breakages when it comes to harvest time. Not a bad finish. All the lands are now completed, and only the headlands and sidelands remain to be ploughed. This is done by ploughing continuously round and round the field. At this stage, the importance of careful marking out becomes clear, for if the headlands and sidelands are not made the same width all round the field, there'll be some awkward pieces of ground to work out at the finish. These can only be worked by running over the land already ploughed, and no farmer likes this. It means a lot of time wasted too. Here she is on her last time round, finishing up very conveniently at the field gate. Now Miss Parker is going to try out her two pupils on a field partly marked out. This girl is going to step out 22 paces from the last ridge to show where the next one must start. Just a minute. Her paces are uneven, so back she comes to step it out again. She must learn to make equal paces or the marking out will be inaccurate. She ties a rag to the marking stick so that it will be seen more easily from the other end of the field. They're away now to place a stick at the top of the field to mark the far end of the next ridge. They leave the tractor tight by the hedge so that tractor and plough will have a straight line before crossing the headland. Again, it is essential that pace should be of the same length. Otherwise, when the land is ploughed out, the finishing strip will be narrower at one end than the other. Round she comes on the headland and brings her tractor dead in line, as it should be, with the marking stick. But in her eagerness to get this right, she's forgotten to trip the plough. So she has to come back and start all again. The marking stick is set up again, and she comes round on the headland and makes a new approach. The plough is tripped in all right this time, so let's see how straight a furrow she can make. No, that won't do. Driving straight isn't as easy as it looks. You've got to keep your eyes on the marking stick all the way down the field. The smallest bend will put the whole job out. There is a method that will enable even an inexperienced ploughman to drive straight. One of the girls is going to put in a third stick halfway up the field and in line with the other two. Then, if the driver keeps two sticks always in line, she has a better chance of driving straight. But she mustn't look back once she's tripped in. The plough should always be tripped as the wheels cross the headland furrow. Here she's made a bad mistake and tripped out much too soon. This has left a piece of ground unploughed. Pieces of ground missed in this way can't be ploughed with the headland and will remain unploughed till after harvest, a waste of valuable ground. There's a good deal more in ploughing than appears at first sight, and when turning on the headland, you've got to remember a surprising number of things at the same time. These furrows are not at all bad for a beginner. Whoa, she's letting her front wheel wander away from the furrow wall. She brings it back again, but the furrow is crooked. It's essential to keep the front wheel against the furrow wall in order to plough straight. Crooked furrows mean trouble when you get down to finishing width. Finishing off a land is a difficult job, and here it is being well done. The tractor is straddling the unploughed strip, and the offside wheel is running against the furrow wall. Ploughing like this, according to a plan, is the most thorough and the most efficient ploughing, whether it is done by men or in time of war by the women who are taking their places.